Hey Transformers and comic book fans, this is David Lees with a review in this video of Transformers 84, the one-shot special 35th anniversary celebration edition of Transformers. I mentioned this in a quick preview trailer the other day, looking fantastic, and I'm going to be taking a closer look at the story, the pictures, the visuals and so on, because I've got to say this is by far my favourite comic book for the last couple of years, easily. It's right up there in so many ways with the original G1 comic book. So I'll be zooming in quite closely on the pictures, talking through what I've liked, some of the drawbacks, some of the things I didn't like so much, but expanding on that and looking at the plot, going through what's sort of included. So without further ado, let's zoom in a little. I'm going to take a close look, as I said, in this video. Kicking off the cover with Optimus and Megatron as ever, mortal enemies. It's amazing they didn't kill each other more often, considering how close they got to each other when they were firing their guns, but that's a whole separate story. So this is writer Simon Furman, who knows what he's doing. He's got a really great handle on the Transformers universe. Artist Guido Guidi, and the colorist John Paul Bove. Got to call out each three of them because the story, the art and the colouring is top notch. It's exactly in keeping with the G1 look and feel, the appearance. Got the Ben-Day half-tone dots for the colours. The line art is exactly as it was in G1. There's some lovely touches, and I'll mention those in a few moments. But it starts off with a narration by a character we don't immediately recognise, but we'll get more on him later. But you can see as an example here, Civil War on Cybertron, lovely multicoloured image, Acid Storm in the middle, Astro Train to the right, Jazz in the corner. There are more, and the more you look, the more you'll see. So well worth repeat reading, looking at it time and time again. But this is a prime example, no pun intended, of the colouring I mentioned earlier. This is a fantastic double-page story of Optimus overseeing the construction of the Ark. So that sets where we are in the timeline. But there are all sorts of little details going on, just to take you in a little closer. You can see, for example, here, Wheeljack talking with Perceptor. Beautifully coloured, even in tiny detail, where you can see each of these individual Transformers being picked out. And then we have the classic G1 treatment. We saw this a lot in the early issues especially, where attention being drawn to the two main characters, to Councillor Track on the left, Optimus on the right, and the other characters being painted in a kind of slightly incongruous but similar colour, and they're all in this shade of purple. If you look closely, you'll probably pick out who they are, but it's this general treatment that we saw from G1 that's been really carefully and thoughtfully reproduced here. The discussion going on is about how to handle Megatron, the war on Cybertron. The problem is that, as we know, Cybertron gets blasted out of its orbit based on, as a result of the war and the explosions being caused, going into the path of an asteroid field. That's expounded on here. Optimus says it's possible to set off a series of controlled explosions, slow Cybertron down, and take it into the path, into the gravity well of a local star, Ursa Major. I'm not going to nitpick. Ursa Major is a constellation, it's not a star, but that's the kind of thing that we saw in G1. A lot of tech words being borrowed, sometimes incorrectly, but they've got it spot on. I can't argue. I think they've done it deliberately, and I like it. One drawback, the only thing I'm going to call out, is the amount of time spent in this issue on the humans. Furman was very good at keeping the story robots only, but there are quite a few pages of 11th century humans on Earth in England at Stancham Castle. Stancham Castle was the setting for the Man of Iron storyline that was in the early issues 7, 8, 8 and 9 of the UK continuity. So you already start to wonder what's going on here. It's 1017, Stancham Castle, England. There's a fight going on, and suddenly there's this random crash landing of an Autobot shuttle. So interesting what's going on here. If you know the original story, Man of Iron, you'll get this straight away. If not, find it online, get the comic book, or one of the repeats, the reissues, when have a read through. But what happens here, this shuttle crashes, and 2 Autobots. I say crashes, it's as they say themselves, any landing you can walk away from is a good one. So, but Cloud Raker, get the zoom, there we go. Cloud Raker and Fastlane, 2 Autobots, looking for the Ark, which has crashed from their timeline, the best part of 4 million years previously. So off they go, watched by this unknown Decepticon, unnamed I should say. You might recognise him, I won't spoil the story. Jumping immediately back to Cybertron without any warning. I think this page in particular really calls out the detail of the way that the comic's been put together based on the G1 style. This is exactly how it was. Lines of Autobots standing around talking. Prowl, Sunstreaker, Bumblebee, Jazz, Windcharger, Mirage and Bluestreak overseeing the construction of the Ark. And the way that the speech bubbles have been done exactly in the G1 style with the little stars on the corners. Everyone is talking with exclamation marks. It's great. I mentioned at the start some of the inclusion of some of the more modern Transformers. Ultra Magnus makes an appearance. He wasn't in the original G1 story, but obviously retroactively inserted. And then we also then get to meet the Decepticons up close and personal. Megatron drawn exactly as he was in that era. I'm going to call out particular attention to this page again. Megatron talking, you have done well. The existence of Project Ark has already been corroborated by Ravage. And this frame here on the top right, Optimus talking to the Autobot Council and says, "But I shall be there to meet the enemy should he strike." This frame, this text, taken exactly, and I mean almost exactly, from the original G1 comic book. Let me bring in, this is the same from issue 1. I have it in the Complete Works volume 1, but Optimus and a rather wonky looking Bumblebee, I assume it's Bumblebee in yellow. Here we are. I shall be there in focus, but I shall be there to meet the enemy should he strike. And then this picture here of Ravage overseeing it, Megatron will be pleased, and so on. But this picture matching exactly, as close as it can, with the reissue. They've recoloured it, touched it up a little, but you can see the attention to detail that's been taken, and the care is well worth it. And you recognise this character who later appears on Earth as Counterpunch. Counterpunch, the spy, the double agent. Megatron's deciding, been informed by Counterpunch about the Ark and is going to attempt to go and attack it. Back to Earth again. I'm going to gloss over this very quickly. The Decepticons land near where the Autobots landed, go off searching for them, looking for the Ark. So nice to see the Duocons, Flywheels and Battletrap. They get, I'm going to say some screen time, but some page space. Leaving one Decepticon behind who tracks down the Ark, contact confirmed, and then an unknown warrior, more on that later. If you just make out it is actually Counterpunch or Punch, shoots the remaining Decepticon so that he isn't able to spread the news about the presence of the Ark. The Autobots get into a melee with the humans. Meanwhile, back on Cybertron, like I said, the pace is ridiculous. Counterpunch goes off to the distant wastelands of Cybertron, has a rendezvous with Optimus to confirm that the bait has been taken, i.e. that they've planted the information about the Ark to draw Megatron off Cybertron. Lovely picture here of a group shot of the Autobots seatbelted in the Ark. I particularly enjoyed seeing Hound, middle bottom. He's one of my favourite characters, and Brawn drawn exactly as he was in that era. The face rather than just the toy version of the eye and so on. Then Optimus asks Punch to take on a further duty. Meanwhile, back on Earth, and the story flip-flops very quickly. As I said, immediately from one side to the other. A little too much humans, I said, but the Decepticons find the Autobots on 11th century Earth. There is a fight. One of them is badly damaged. Meanwhile, a redraw of the Decepticons boarding the Ark. It's a redraw in this case. They've thinned out the population of soldiers attacking. So it's slightly different, but it's still there. And Optimus presses the button. It takes them on their collision course with Earth. Though we die, at least our enemies are taken with us. I'm fairly sure that's a retread as well. I'm just flicking through my copy of complete works, but you can see retold. The Decepticons boarding, as I said, a lot more characters in the original version, and at least our enemies are taken with us. So again, care and attention, very much appreciated. On Earth, the Decepticons attack and overwhelm the Autobots. One of them is seriously injured, Cloudraker, and they go back to the ship, while Counterpunch shoots down their shuttle as it departs, knowing, I guess, that the discussion that Optimus and Punch had in the wastelands on Cybertron said if they find it, they've got to stay there and guard it. And so this is a lovely shot of the two Autobots crash landing back into Earth, one of them lying on the CR chamber, crashing into the castle, not to be heard of for another 1,000 years or so. We must never be found. That's what it says. So that's the conclusion of the Counterpunch story. Optimus says, you know, whatever happens, whatever it takes, Megatron as evil can never be allowed to blight the universe again. And there's this lovely sort of sepia tinted shot. So many of your finest warriors, they've got to go, they've got to be sacrificed. If it was any less than a full tilt attack, then Megatron would suss something was wrong. So secrets and lies, my friend, war is a dirty business, and no one comes out clean. I mentioned in my previous video the additional content at the back, the different covers for Transformers. As we've seen, this is the ongoing Transformers, I call it a bold new era, and the hunt is on. Issue 13 coming up in September. By my timeline, we should have issue 11 next week. I will be covering that, issue 13 to follow in September, so they're going to get through them pretty sharpish. I'm going to call out again and mention Transformers Galaxies. This is a new monthly beginning in September. I should be on my way to my local comic book store to get this on my pull list, so to speak, my subscription. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really do hope you've enjoyed the nostalgia from seeing the G1 Autobots and Decepticons redrawn, as I said, with the Ben Day dots, the original line arts, all there. It